Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions with my co-host Stacie, here to talk about Sullivan's Crossing, Season 1, Episode 6, Boiling Point. The episode's description reads as follows. Sully tries to hide how much he's struggling from Frank and Edna. Back in Boston, Maggie's boyfriend is intent on repairing their relationship and plans a surprise. However, his plans are derailed when Maggie receives bad news. The episode was directed by Bradley Walsh, who also directed the pilot. The episode was written by Carrie McDonald. This is her third and final stint for the season on this show. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a spoiler-free podcast. If you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out, and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you are listening on one of the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please subscribe. You can also head over to my YouTube channel, Corn Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, as well as subscribing to our channel. All right, so shout-outs this week. One for Faith. She had a birthday yesterday, November 12th. I'm not sure when you're listening to this, so for me, it's yesterday. For you, it's who knows whenever you happen to be listening to it. I have no idea how old she is. I'm too polite to ask, but happy birthday.
I saw a number posted, but
you did.
We don't need to share that.
Okay, all right. Skylar Anderson happened to mention the fact that sometimes this show kind of veers into Hallmark territory, and this is a person who likes this show. And yeah, it definitely does do that at times, but I'm kind of okay with it. Ashley Wright said something to me, and I can't even remember what he said. I forgot to look into it. But
you've had a lot of shout-outs that are just, I don't remember what this person, but yay, shout out to you.
Yeah. Wait, actually, okay. So what Ashley Wright said was that he thought that perhaps Edna had given Walter a fake VIP cabin.
Oh, yes.
And you, I think, ended up saying that it definitely said VIP cabin or somewhere.
Yeah, on the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, my daughter Julia is going to be in Shrek the Musical in the middle school. She's not, going on Broadway or anything like that. Her school is selling shirts for the drama club to raise money for this. And if you're interested in supporting that, I will include the link in the description for that. Also, big piece of news, the strike is over.
The strike. It's been a big week for us.
Yes.
There's been
absolutely.
a lot going on around here over the last week. And the SAG after strike has ended. That's amazing news.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that doesn't affect Sullivan's Crossing.
It does not. Which
so
is
this
why
is a silly time for us to be talking about it.
Yeah, I figured I'd bring it up anyway.
Yeah.
But I'll have more to say about that.
It doesn't affect Sullivan's Crossing because they are not under a SAG contract. They've actually already been filming season 2.
Yeah, when we talk about Quantum Leap, which will be in a couple of days, I'll talk more about this. But for those who care, the strike is over.
Yes, and it does affect the filming community in Nova Scotia. Shelley Thompson had told us when we spoke to her, that filming had dried up this season because they do receive so many projects from the States.
Right.
So this will be good news for everybody, all of those local actors that we have become so close with.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of those local actors, I was so happy to watch this episode. We got to see Shelley Thompson again, reappearing as Mrs. Markov. We got to see Bob Mann back as Bob Hollis again. I was happy to see him. And we even got to see the back of Faith Shav's head.
Yep, and that was totally worthwhile. It's always good to see the back of her head. I mean, I would like to see more of her, but I'll take what I can get. So, Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode?
Okay, so like I said, it was fun seeing some of those, smaller bit actor, or not smaller actors, but smaller parts in this series. You reappear. At first I thought this episode was going to be really disjointed because the main characters are in different locations, and I knew we were going to be bouncing back and forth, but I feel like they did a really good job actually with the way they cut all of that.
Kind of like tying the stories together.
Yeah, it didn't feel as disjointed as I expected it to. Actually, I don't think it felt disjointed at all once we really got into the episode. I feel like it was cut way better than episode 4, which didn't have that problem of different locations.
Right. No, I totally agree. I thought this was a decent episode. Perhaps a little bit of a step back from last week, but still pretty good in its own right. I don't really have any issues with this. Other than an in-universe issue with the people surrounding Maggie. All of them, in their own way, seem really terrible human beings.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that you don't want to root for.
No.
Right?
No. And I think maybe they stacked the deck a little too much against these characters. Like, maybe make them a little bit more likable so that there's more of a tug of war between Boston and Sullivan's Crossing.
Right.
As far as the main character is concerned.
They really, in every situation, they really highlight, like, the stark differences between the Boston life and the Sullivan's Crossing life,
and it's basically
and the
Boston people
that are
suck.
in those places, and you know their philosophies, and they're constantly pointing out the differences. Where really it's like Maggie's being asked to pick between two totally different worlds, right? That's where she's at. Yeah, and it's a little extreme, but I don't hate it either.
No, I don't hate it either. So do we have anything else to say before just diving into this thing?
So those guest actors appeared, but we didn't get any Rob or Sydney this episode.
Yes. That was a shame.
No Reed Price or
Lindora.
Yeah. So and this is the first episode ever that I've actually watched live as it was airing on CW, because usually we're watching Quantum Leap at that time. There wasn't a Quantum Leap episode that evening, so I was able to watch it live and live tweet, which is great. But I was disappointed. Like, where are the Shandons?
Where's Rob? Where's Sydney?
Yeah. So that was notable to me. It made me a little sad. I wanted to see like all these people, that we've come to love together, like these, these great Nova Scotian actors that that we've been communicating with, and I was like a little disappointed that we had to cut that out to make room for the other people.
I guess so.
Reed had said it was COVID related.
Really?
That they're supposed to have a scene, but somebody had COVID, and they just had to switch the shooting schedule around, so they ended up not in this episode.
Oh, okay. So you talked to him about this before?
Well, I had posted, okay, where's Reed Price?
Right.
And he responded to that.
Gotcha, okay. All right, so this episode opens with Maggie back home in Boston. She's meeting her mom at a restaurant, and they're soon joined by Andrew, which is a surprise to Maggie. Her mother wanted that to be a surprise, and Andrew says that she, in fact, hates surprises.
Yeah, which we know.
Yeah.
We've known that since, the first episode. Especially when it comes to Andrew. She doesn't like surprises.
Yeah.
She seems as thrilled to see him as ever, which is not at all.
As thrilled to see Andrew as I am. Andrew says that they are in this together. But Andrew doesn't happen to know the fact that she doesn't eat crab. How long have these guys been dating?
Right.
Like he's about to propose, and he doesn't know this basic fact about Maggie. So right there.
And we get that a lot this episode, where we realize he doesn't know her very well.
So of all the people in Maggie's corner in Boston, Andrew is the least crabby, but he's still kind of clueless when it comes to Maggie. He has this romance playing in his head, an epic romance playing in his head that doesn't seem to match reality. Right,
yeah, totally. I get that. He doesn't know her.
Right.
Like, they've never lived in the same city together, even, let alone, like, live together, or, like, they have a long-distance relationship. How much time do they actually spend together? They're both super busy surgeons, like, before where we pick up the story. I can't imagine they even have spent a lot of time together.
Yeah, my biggest problem with Andrew is that he's clueless. He just seems to be a clueless human being at every step of the way. Maggie picks up on that something is going on, and it turns out Andrew got the job in Boston. That initially he didn't because of Maggie's situation, but Walter put in a word for him. Andrew asked Maggie if he should have waited to tell her, and her mother doesn't give her a chance to answer. She answers for her and says, "Oh, no, you should have said it now."
Yeah, and there's definitely this dynamic where Andrew and Phoebe are kind of like in cahoots, and Maggie's the one on the outside.
Right,
and that's
a weird dynamic.
It's a really weird dynamic for, your mother and your boyfriend to...
It seems like the two of them are conspiring against Maggie all the time.
Right, constantly. Like, she's always, like, the last one to know what's going on, and they're always, have these surprises, which she hates. And it's in this scene also that we get to see Faith. She is a customer eating at a table. You can see her in the distance behind Maggie.
Oh, okay.
Actually, she's in our thumbnail for this video.
Right.
She's very blurry in it because Maggie is up on focus, Maggie and Andrew.
Yeah.
And you can see Faith just between them off in the distance.
So eagle-eyed viewers should take a look for that. Cut to Sully, passed out in his house, laying on a bed.
He's on the couch.
Room. Okay, it's a couch, all right.
Yeah.
Edna is knocking on the door, waking him up. He's late to the store, and Edna needs to go basically get Frank to an appointment of some type.
Yeah, a doctor's appointment.
And apparently Sully is never actually this late. Sully grumpily tells her he'll be down in a minute. And Edna says that they need to talk about what happened with Walter before leaving.
Right. So Edna's upset about the Walter thing. They haven't talked since then.
Right.
Of course, what she doesn't know is, that Sully was drinking last night.
Right.
He's hungover. He's ashamed. He doesn't want anybody to know that he fell off the wagon. And that's what's going on with him. He's just really short with her. He's really short with everybody in this episode.
Yeah.
And it's because he's so angry with himself that he's taking it out on everybody around him.
Yeah. He's angry that he let Walter get to him, and he should be. Mm-hmm. And he's also angry that he's basically started drinking again.
Right.
So there's multiple... He's not doing so well. There's a lot of things going on with him, including his money problems. And that's where our credits start. When we come back, Cal is getting ready for his day. Sully is throwing...
He's packing for a camping trip.
Oh, okay. Sully is throwing away an empty bottle of alcohol. And Edna and Frank, meanwhile, are at the store. Frank suggests that she give Sully a chance to explain. And Edna says there is no excuse for punching him in the face. And while I agree with Edna, I also think that Frank is right that she should give him a chance to explain and tell her what happened. So Edna is stressing out because they are going to be late for their appointment, but Jackson says that he will watch the store. And Edna tells him to let Sully know that she wants a word with him when she gets back. So they leave. Caleb ends up coming in.
Yeah, and let me just say, poor Jackson.
Yeah.
I found this scene so funny. He's sitting off in the corner. We don't know he's there, right, during Edna and Frank's conversation. And then all of a sudden, Jackson's like, I got it. Just go.
Right.
And it's funny because, Edna didn't trust him to run the store for 5 minutes until Sully shows up.
Right.
He runs the store all the time. He ran the place while you guys were in the hospital for days.
Right.
And I just felt so bad for Jackson. Trust this kid.
Right.
He can handle it.
He seems like a good egg.
He can handle the whole 0 customers you're going to have while you're gone. It's okay.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so
Caleb comes in.
Yeah, Jackson can't leave till Sully gets there, but he wants to take Caleb to Morrison Peak, which is not as big of a deal as it sounds. He downplays what this place is actually like. Caleb wants something that's beginner-like for his first climb, and Jackson basically says that's what this is. Sully ends up entering. He's clearly not in a good mood, but he says it's a nice day and that he should just go take off for the day, go enjoy it, and go climbing.
Which I was confused by that because isn't him going climbing part of his job?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he does, right?
Right.
He's the climbing instructor.
I guess, yeah.
It's another part of the dynamics of this place that I don't understand. Does Sully and, the camp not get a cut of that?
Is that not sure.
Part of their problem that they're offering all these things, but they're not taking any of the money from it?
Yeah, I thought the whole climbing thing was part of the deal with this place.
Right.
That was, you pay for that.
Right.
I mean, if they weren't charging for that, then that's more examples of where Sully is just a really bad businessman.
Yeah.
Because he should be charging.
The first time we met, well, not the first time we met Jackson, because that was at the campfire, but the next time we met Jackson, we found out he worked at Sullivan's Crossing.
Not to mention, how does Jackson get paid? Who is he getting paid for, taking people up this mountain? Is he getting paid to run the store?
Right. Exactly.
His job is to help people climb.
So the first time we found out he worked at the store, which I think was in episode 2, they were like, oh, he's late, right? He comes in, and then 30 seconds later, he leaves to meet a climbing customer.
Right.
Customer's not the word I was looking for. Client's the word. No, this was before that.
Oh, okay,
This was he was just going to meet somebody. They named somebody. But that's when I was like, oh, he works for the camp as a climbing instructor.
Right.
But now here, Sully's like, take the day off, go climbing. Like, he has a customer. He's going climbing with your camper person.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, this isn't just for fun.
Right. No.
I don't think.
Maybe he's just Sully's just, I don't know. Maybe he's just lost his mind.
Also during this scene, right before Sully came in, we got this scene where Caleb picked up a book that Jackson was was drawing. So it's a book of drawings. Jackson's been drawing. And Caleb was really impressed with this, but Jackson pulled it away. He didn't want Caleb to see it. I'm wondering if this maybe ties in with the reason Jackson was so reluctant about the police force. Because maybe Jackson doesn't want to join the police force. Maybe Jackson wants to be an artist. And his father's not supportive of that.
I halfway expected one of the pages to turn and it to be like a drawing of Caleb himself.
Yeah,
and perhaps that was why he didn't want to see him.
Right,
yeah.
That's why he didn't want him to look because he didn't want to see the fact that he was
right.
He's got a crush.
Yeah. We've all been there. I'm actually kind of curious. Do you think this is a mutual thing at this time?
I don't know. We haven't seen enough of them together to really pick up on that. But we definitely, the moment they saw each other, you know, this is being set up as a love interest immediately.
Jackson gives him the message about Edna, and Edna left some things for him on the chair. The things on the chair happens to be a picture of a younger Maggie, which is some kind of message to Sully. I'm not sure what she's trying to do here, but he seems to be thinking that this is not a subtle message.
Yeah, neither Sully nor I thought this was very subtle. It was pictures of Maggie and with a note that said, hang these up. So in other words, like, here, look at your daughter. Like, look what you're doing. You're pushing her away. You need to remember, here's your daughter.
Right. And he ends up hanging the pictures on the wall. Back to Maggie, her mother, and Andrew.
And they're still having breakfast.
Right. Her mother asks about her meal, and then asks if she's going to have one of her little panic attacks, which is really sensitive. Like, damn. I've never really liked her mother, but I really didn't like her in this episode.
Yeah, I don't think Phoebe's a great role model.
No. Her mother says she used to have them all the time as a kid. And that's news to Andrew.
Right.
Which, once again, that speaks to two things. One, this is her private business that Phoebe is just casually sharing. And, panic attacks is not a little deal. This is something personal. And Andrew doesn't already know this. So this is like more evidence that Andrew doesn't know.
Yeah, and I was torn between, saying, does this say more about his lack of attention to detail and how little he really knows about Maggie? Or does this tell us more about the way Maggie likes to keep people at arm's length? The way she hasn't told him this. Like, they're supposedly in this committed relationship to the point where he's ready to propose, and we feel like she's never opened up to him about anything in her life.
I kind of think it speaks to a couple of things. One, Phoebe being a crappy mother.
Well, yeah.
Two, what you were just talking about. And three, the fact that Andrew just does not know Maggie at all, really, when it comes down to it. And yet, he thinks he's having this great romance that I don't think Maggie thinks that they're actually having.
Maggie has never, ever appeared real interested in her relationship with Andrew. Every single scene between them, it's like, yeah, I'm dating him, but it doesn't feel serious on her end at all.
Nope. She gets up to talk to one of her friends. The friend doesn't seem thrilled to see her.
Yeah, so this is Nurse Miriam.
Yep. As she walks away, she hears gossip about her misdiagnosis and the overbilling thing. Okay, I get the overbilling thing being a source of gossip. I don't quite get the misdiagnosis being talked about like this.
Yeah, so Miriam, and we'll find out later, she's involved in the lawsuit.
Oh, is she now?
Well, she's the one who made the statement against Maggie. So, and we had first heard her name when Maggie was making those notes. I think that was last episode. She was making the notes for the deposition, and she was talking about Nurse Miriam. So as far as Maggie's concerned, she's going to see a coworker, a friend. She's like, hey, how are things at the hospital? I've been away. And Miriam is so cold with Maggie. And we quickly get the idea that Miriam doesn't want anything to do with her.
Mm-hmm.
She basically like tells her to go away. And yeah, apparently Maggie's the talk of the hospital, and from where I'm looking, Miriam's a bitch.
Yeah.
And that thought will continue later. I'm sure the actress who plays her, which is Martha Irving, I'm sure she's a lovely woman.
Yeah, well, she's just playing a character. Nothing against the actress.
And Martha also appeared in season 4 of The Sinner.
Oh, okay.
Which is something we've brought up a lot on this channel.
What did she play in The Sinner?
You know, I didn't recognize the character's name. She was in a few episodes.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe one of the mother's friends. Remember she had some parties?
Yeah, okay.
I'm thinking it's somebody from that circle.
All right.
But yeah, we've mentioned that a few times as it features a lot of the Nova Scotian actors that we've talked about. It's one of those, you're going through IMDb's and it's like, yep, there's The Sinner. You can clearly see, like, if we start tracking this, like, which productions were filmed in that area.
It's almost incestuous. Like, they're just all in the same things together.
Yeah.
Okay, so Maggie ends up leaving the restaurant upset. Cal comes into the store talking to Sully. He's looking to do something.
He's looking to buy a patch for his tent, because when he was packing earlier for his camping trip, he saw a little hole in his tent.
Mm-hmm. He seems to want to help Sully, but Sully's kind of brusque with him, and ends up telling him that Roy has been lonely. If he's looking to do something, he can go and visit Roy. Yeah,
so originally, Cal was going to work on his getting ready for his camping trip, which I'm wondering does that mean we're close to July 22nd, that date he circled on the calendar? Is that what this is about?
We might be.
He's getting ready to go do that. But yeah, he noticed that, like, something's up with Sully, right? So when he offered, like, hey, let me help you with stuff today, I think he was really like, I feel like you need a friend right now. Like, something's wrong, I can tell. Let's chat. Let's hang out. Let me support you.
I mean, they had previously bonded, and I think Cal is looking to continue that relationship.
Right, but Sully was very cool with him. He was treating him like a customer he's never seen a day in his life. He wasn't even acting like it was his friend or even like it's his employee. He was just like, anything else I can help you with?
So the takeaway from this for me is that Maggie is not the only one who pushes people away. This is very much a thing that runs in the family.
Yeah, and I even have that in my notes. I said maybe this is a hint at why Maggie has this tendency to push people away. Like, this is something she got from her father. But yeah, he had advised him to go check in on Roy.
Andrew rushes after Maggie. This is after she leaves the restaurant. And now she is really having a panic attack. She's actually having the panic attack that her mother predicted she would have.
Right.
He reassures her and says, whatever happens, it doesn't matter as long as we are together. And once again, this is Andrew having this great romance in his mind.
Right. He says, like, it doesn't matter as long as we're together. That's all that's important. But
they're not in the same headspace.
She's not worried about you right now.
Right.
She's sitting here worried about her career.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that her medical career, that she went to school for 8 or 10 years to even become a doctor.
Right.
Pretty sure that's a much bigger deal to her in this moment than your relationship.
Right.
I don't think she cares that you're here together.
Right.
She cares about her career, and this could ruin her. That's what her panic attack is about. She said, I can't do this. It's all too much. Like, she feels the walls are all falling down around her.
Right.
And although, he might be a comfort to her in this moment, I don't think the idea that, hey, we've got each other is going to really help her problem.
That doesn't really mean anything to her. I mean, not from all appearances.
Right.
So Cal goes to see Roy, who's surprised to see him, and he offers him something to drink. I half expected Roy to come back with something that's like rancid or expired or like, chunky milk or something.
You don't got any faith in Roy, huh?
No, I do not. But I mean, that's just because of how they painted him to this point. So Cal wants to play chess. Roy is curious why he wants to spend time with an old man. Cal insinuates that he doesn't really have much else going on, but Roy suggests he seemed to have something going on with Maggie, and Cal insists that they are just friends, plus she isn't exactly around at the moment.
Yeah, and Roy goes as far as saying they make a cute couple. And when Cal said they're just friends, Roy said, I might be old, but I'm not blind. Like, maybe you don't see it, but it's pretty obvious to me that there's something there.
No, I'm pretty sure Cal believes there's something there, or at least there's something on his end, even if there's not anything on her end. I'm not sure if he's quite confident in that, but I'm pretty sure he knows his own feelings. Sully, meanwhile, looks at pictures of Maggie. He's clearly in emotional pain.
Yeah, he actually starts crying.
Right. The chess game concludes with Roy and Cal. Roy talks about his wife, who didn't tell him that she was sick.
That's actually no. He's talking about her. His
oh
daughter.
Yeah, his daughter. I didn't mean wife.
Lola's mother. He's talking about.
And he ends up revealing that Lola got hit by a car in a hit and run. Okay, I have a theory about this.
Okay,
I believe that the person who hit Lola is Sully.
It's possible,
and that the reason why he's so offering to help her to the extent that he does is because of
he
guilt.
Feels guilty.
Yes.
And perhaps Phoebe knows this and it was a reason she left.
Maybe. It's possible. And maybe alcohol was the reason behind it.
Oh, if he did it, definitely alcohol's the reason.
So I think that ends up explaining a lot of Sully's
we're
actions.
definitely going to hear more about this story for sure, whether that's the case or... It's obviously somebody we know, right? For them to bring this up.
They are bringing it up randomly, I should add. So I think it has some meaning to the story.
Right.
Sure.
And Roy's whole motivation behind this conversation is he was telling Cal that he should ask Lola to play. Because Cal was saying, it's nice to have a worthy opponent to play chess with. And Roy was like, well, you should play with Lola. She's pretty good too. I taught her when she was a little girl. And I feel like he's hedging his bets a bit. Like, he was just saying how cute you are with Maggie, and now it feels like you're trying to push him towards Lola.
Yeah, maybe.
So I thought that was a little weird to have both of those come out from this scene. But yeah, it was during that he had said that, it was the only thing, playing chess was the only thing that could make her smile after her mother died.
By the way, that car accident couldn't have been that bad because she seems perfectly fine.
Right.
So
yeah, her mother died when she was 16, and the car accident happened when she was 7. So it was quite a bit earlier.
Lola comes home and insists Cal stay for dinner. He agrees to come back in a couple of hours, not in an hour like he would
exactly
with Maggie. It's a couple of hours.
Yeah. I thought it was weird at all that they're telling him to leave. Like, why is he just not staying?
Right.
You came with the groceries. You're about to cook dinner.
Why
not say, just stay?
Right.
He wasn't the one that was like, I have to go, I'll come back. It was Lola that said, come back in a couple hours.
Right.
I thought it was weird anyways that she didn't just invite him to stay, but Maggie always only makes him wait 1 hour. So Lola's failing here.
Right. Yep. Yep.
You're failing by telling him he got to leave for a couple hours.
So we see Maggie exercising. Cal tries to call her, and he doesn't manage to reach her. Edna and Frank return to the store, which is closed. Edna is annoyed and leaves Frank to go and talk to Sully, who's working on the dock.
Yeah, didn't they already fix that dock? He's like changing the boards out on the dock. I could have swore they did that like 3 episodes ago.
I mean, he was working on a different part of the dock. Maybe this is like, something else he needed to do on that dock, but...
Or is he just trying to keep busy?
Yeah, busy work for the sake of busyness to, keep his mind off things. It's possible.
Yeah, but Edna, of course, is upset he's not in the store because why is the store closed? It's not supposed to be closed.
Sully says hitting Walter doesn't matter from a PR perspective. I mean, he doesn't say those exact words, but that's basically what he's saying. Because no customers are coming anyhow. But Edna points out that Walter could charge him with assault. And that's something that Sully hadn't considered.
Yeah, he hadn't even thought of that before.
Not to mention, he could also sue Sully. Like, a lawsuit for the broken nose.
And, could lose the whole thing by that.
So this could be a bigger deal than Sully's even considering.
Right. And once she points it out to him, he does look actually pretty worried about this.
He's upset with himself for letting Walter get to him. And Edna points out that her car is still here, Maggie's.
Right.
And he thinks that someone else is just going to,
she's going to send somebody to pick it up. Yeah.
But Edna says that he could always call her. Sully doesn't think it will do any good. So you're not even going to try?
Right. Nobody's talked to Maggie at this point. She's been gone a while, we get the impression.
So, I mean, Sully, it seems to be a person who's, like, protecting self a little too much and not risking... maybe possibly getting a bad answer by calling Maggie and trying to repair this thing. So he's kind of a coward from an emotional standpoint. Walter appears to piss me off some more. Yeah. He says that the deposition doesn't matter, calling it meaningless. And Maggie takes exception to this. He says, a mother's son is dead, and she thinks that I am the one that killed him. It is not meaningless.
Right.
But then he comes up with this bulk. Okay, so first of all, he says, he starts off okay. He's number one, he says, Mrs. Markov is a woman in pain. All right, that's a true statement. She's looking for someone to blame. Okay, also true.
Yeah.
She's looking for somewhere to go with her grief.
Right.
And this is the best that she can do. But then he follows it up with this, because she can't face the fact that it might be her fault. She's the one that gave her son the car in the first place.
Right, it's her car.
What the
that
hell,
he was
Walter?
driving.
What the hell is this? Like, so I already considered this guy morally bankrupt.
Well, he's very arrogant, right?
Yeah.
He's a very arrogant doctor who assumes nothing could ever be the doctor's fault.
Right. I mean, it's not...
And I don't think this was Maggie's fault.
No, I don't either. But it also blames
But it
Mrs.
certainly
Markov?
wasn't Mrs. Markov's fault that her son got in a car accident.
Right.
Unless we're saying, like, her brakes were faulty and she knew about it or something.
Right. I just don't... I think he started off good, but then ended with this. And it's like, ugh, this is terrible. This is just more evidence that you're a crappy human being. Okay, so dinner with Maggie and Andrew.
They're at a very fancy restaurant. She's like, what are we doing?
And he's like, oh, we're celebrating my new job offer. And I'm like, Andrew, her life is falling apart. Maybe she's not in the mood to celebrate.
And she literally says that to him.
Yeah.
Can't we wait until after the deposition to celebrate things?
He's just so clueless.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we cut back to Sullivan's Crossing. Roy is asleep. Lola and Cal talk.
And they're doing the dishes after dinner.
And by the way, I found the actress's delivery in this scene of her dialogue to be really weird. She's talking about this tragic thing that happened in her life, and she's cheerful, and it just, her delivery is weird. I think I feel that way about every scene that she's ever been in. Like, I'm not sure if this is an actress thing, or if this is the way that they want her character to be played.
Yeah.
But it just, every scene with her is strange.
I mean, I definitely get the hint that we're not supposed to like Lola because we're supposed to be rooting for Maggie and Cal to get together, right?
Right. But
so we're not supposed to like Andrew. We're not supposed to like Lola. Cal tells her it's been a long time since he's had a home-cooked meal like that. And we're seeing this really stark difference, right? Between Lola and Cal's home-cooked dinner in the cabin and Maggie and Andrew's dinner at this fancy restaurant. This is a great example of those two different worlds that Maggie has been splitting her time between. And we learned during this that Sully had taken Lola and her mom in while her mom was having the cancer treatments.
And I think he even offered to pay for some of the treatments.
Yeah, that's when they went to live with him. So
now,
perhaps
my note
they
here,
weren't dating, which was my original thought when we learned that they'd moved in together.
In my note, I have the literal, in parentheses, the word guilt with a question mark.
Yeah.
Because I really think this ties back to the fact that
it's been a few years since that happened. Now the lady's dying. Lola's gonna, not have any parents. I don't know where her dad is. Was that ever mentioned?
No, not that I can recall.
But we know he's not around if they moved in with Sully.
Right.
But yeah, when we first learned that they had moved in with him, I had thought they were dating, right? And that he was kind of a stepfather figure to Lola. But the fact that they moved in because she was having cancer treatments, I think it was more just about financial reasons and somebody to help look after Lola because the mom was sick.
Right. And of course, Maggie kind of took that as Lola being a replacement daughter for her, which is why Maggie resents Lola so much. And maybe there's more of a history.
And something happened when Maggie
absolutely.
came when she was 16. Something happened between them, which I think we'll still learn about.
So meanwhile, Maggie starts to get sick at dinner. I believe this is anxiety.
She looks quite ill.
Right.
And I don't know, it was right after he kind of force-fed her something. So at first I thought it's she doesn't like whatever the heck you just made her eat and it's making her ill. She excused herself to go to the bathroom. Later, she'll tell us she feels fine, and it must have just been her nerves. So I think you're right that they were leaning towards it just being, an emotional response.
If it were food poisoning, then she wouldn't be in
Right.
a state to do what she does later.
Right.
With
She
Andrew.
wouldn't have gotten better.
Right.
And then also for a second I was like, oh, is she pregnant?
Right.
Like that's the thought that we're hit every time, you know, somebody's suddenly ill for no reason.
Right, right.
A female character. You're like, oh, are they pregnant?
Right. Thankfully they don't seem to be going in that direction.
I don't think so, because how long's it been since, you know, that might have happened? Because like every time she's seen Andrew until this episode, she blew him off. So I don't think that's where we're going. But for a second, I had to question it.
Okay, so Cal and Lola conclude their night, and he immediately texts Maggie.
Yes,
that's really not a good sign if you're Lola,
right?
And you're trying to get with Cal.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna walk you out. Are we gonna have a good night kiss?"
Yeah.
No,
she doesn't get that. She gets totally stiffed. And he immediately texts Maggie.
Texts Maggie. We see that their last conversation was about fishing. And back at the restaurant, we see that Maggie left her phone at the table when she went to the bathroom.
Right.
What is it with this girl and leaving her phone behind?
I would not be doing that.
Like, every scene is her phone somewhere without her.
Meanwhile, Andrew guesses her password.
And he takes a few tries at it. He doesn't know it. He breaks into her phone.
And then deletes the text message.
Yeah.
This is not okay.
Absolutely. He deletes it so that she won't ever even know Cal messaged
It's not
her.
even like the message was like, oh, I can't wait to see you naked or something
right.
like that. It's
the
a friendly text
was,
message.
it was something along the lines of, hey, I'm checking on you, and when you get back, maybe we should go fishing again.
Right. Yeah, this is.
He was inviting her to go fishing, which is
Right.
not exactly an intimate experience.
No. Especially not when you get the fish hook in your back, like I said I had in the past. So Maggie returns and asks to leave. And, you know, Andrew's trying to play it cool, but we know he just did something really crappy.
And also, I got the impression he's really annoyed that they're cutting dinner short.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't go off on her about that. So he held it in, I guess, for the most part.
And I thought they were going to actually make a bigger deal between Cal and Maggie with this deleted text message, but that doesn't end up being the case. Like, this was going to be like a wedge issue. Like, oh, I texted you and you never texted me back.
He brought it up.
He did bring it up, but it wasn't like out of anger.
Past it.
Yeah,
real quick.
So Cal is home alone and cuddles with what I think is his wife's ashes. By the way, Chad Michael Murray and Scott Patterson both absolutely kill it in this episode. They're really spectacular in this episode. I mean, not to short anybody else, but I think that they really carried this episode in my mind. The emotional weight.
Yeah. So it's a wooden box. We'd seen it earlier when he was packing for the camping trip. He had picked up this box. So during this scene, he picks it up, and it says, you know, it's his wife's memorial box. And I wasn't sure, like, is that her ashes or is this just like mementos from her? I don't know. I've never seen that.
It's not like an urn.
I've never seen a wooden box being used as an urn.
Right.
But maybe, I don't know, maybe that's a just different cultural thing. I'm not sure. But if it wasn't her ashes, it was something very personal for her. But yeah, I think it was supposed to be her remains, and maybe his trip is to go spread them somewhere or maybe something. But he was very deep in thought during this scene, and the song that's playing over this scene is that same song that was playing on their radio in the scene when they were eating, and he had gotten all upset.
That's what this camping trip could possibly be.
Right.
A way to move on. Like maybe spread the ashes at some place that they used to go. Mm-hmm. And this is his way of moving on and perhaps living his life
allowing
again.
Himself to have the feelings that he's starting to feel.
Right. That could make sense. I like that. Back home, I think, Maggie apologizes.
Back at somebody's home.
Yeah, I don't know where this is exactly. Maggie apologizes for ruining dinner. Andrew ends up giving her a massage. And one thing leads to another. And as I'm watching the scene, I'm like, I don't want to be watching this.
Yeah, it was a lot more extended than it needed to be. And you know, those unnecessary sex scenes.
I mean, I don't necessarily have a
But that's
problem.
the first time we're getting one of those in this series. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it could have been, you know, a full 45 seconds shorter than it was, and we would have got the same idea. And he says something really weird in this moment that should have struck her as like, what are you talking about? He says, I can't lose you. Now, this is in his brain. He saw that text message. He thinks there's something going on between Maggie and Cal, which, I mean, there is emotionally. There's something happening there.
More so than is happening between the two of them.
Right. And he's like, I can't lose you, because he thinks that might happen. But she should be like, what are you talking about? Why are you saying that right now?
Right.
It was weird. And she should be asking herself, why do you think you're going to lose me?
Right.
What's going on?
That should definitely interrupt the carnal activities that are going on here. All right, so we cut to Maggie, who's shopping with her mother. They end up running into Bob Hollis, who's not looking too good.
Yeah. I was happy to see Bob Mann on our screen again, but Maggie was not so happy to see Bob Hollis.
Right. And he ends up asking, could we go somewhere for a drink, because there's something I need to tell you. Okay, what is that about?
Exactly.
So I'm thinking that Walter has something to do with the shenanigans with Bob. That he has some involvement in that.
Oh, that's a good theory.
And that's perhaps what he wants to tell Maggie.
Okay,
about.
I like that. I was questioning, like, okay, what does he want to tell her? Because it sounds like he really has something to tell her that she probably needs to know. Right. But she's just so busy, telling him off. And she basically says, I never want to hear from you again.
Right.
Which I don't blame her. He, blew up her career.
Right.
Aside from...
Not just her career, her life.
Aside from the career blowing up thing that's happening with the lawsuit with Mrs. Markiff, this was the catalyst that sent her away in the first place. But yeah, I was like, what is he got to say? Does it have something to do with the billing case?
Yeah, I'm assuming so.
Does it have something to do with the Markiff lawsuit? Did he hear something at the hospital that, she needs to know?
Right.
Or does it have something to do with Andrew?
Right.
Did he see Andrew on a date with another girl? Or, what is this?
I don't think that it's going to be that mundane.
But whatever it is, I really want to know, and I think that Maggie really needs to know what this guy has to say.
Absolutely. Give
him 5 minutes and say, what do you really have to tell me? Because I feel like she's going to regret not finding out whatever he knows.
Well, we know that Bob Mann is going to appear in more episodes, so I'm sure he's going to get a chance to have this conversation before the season is out.
But probably after it's too late to help her.
Maybe. Cal, meanwhile, is having breakfast.
Yeah, we got this exterior shot of Shandon's diner.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, again, the Shandons are nowhere in sight.
But they're probably in there somewhere. That's comforting to
Metaphysically, they're there.
Right. He gets a call from Maggie heading into her deposition. And I'm going to point out the fact she's going to this deposition alone. No Andrew, no mother, no Walter. Why isn't anybody accompanying her? Why isn't any of those three people supporting her?
Right. I mean, I don't think they could go to the table, but they could have went to the building with her.
Right. They could have sat in the lobby.
Yeah.
And just,
yeah.
I mean, I get they're all busy people, but they knew when this was happening.
She chooses to call
Cal, of all people.
Because she says, I needed to hear a friendly voice before heading in there.
And I was actually honestly surprised that we got this conversation in this episode. I didn't think they were going to connect at all. And that they actually talked about the fact that he texted her.
Yeah, he says, I'm surprised to hear from you after, you ignored my text. So he thinks that she's just kind of keeping her distance.
Right.
So he didn't try again because he's trying to give her space. If you don't want to talk to me, okay.
Right.
So that's why he hasn't called her.
Yeah. But she didn't get the text message, and I wonder why. And I'm wondering when that's going to blow up in Andrew's face. Hopefully,
I hope it does.
Hopefully as soon as possible. We have a brief scene with Frank and Sully, and I think by now Edna and Frank should be really suspicious of the fact that Sully is not doing well here.
Yeah, shouldn't Frank have realized what's going on?
Yes, I think
and
so.
I don't think he has picked up on the fact that what you're worried about is already happening.
Right. So, I mean, that's kind of a beef I have here, is that Frank is just not picking up on this.
Yeah, but I do think they have at this point picked up on the fact that he's really upset. Not only that Maggie left, but also there's financial stuff going on. Because in this scene, they're talking about the Rainbow Club.
Right.
Who apparently has canceled their booking this year, even though they've come here every year for the last 12 years. And I'm guessing this is a really big, retreat that they count on being a part of their season.
So back at Maggie's deposition, which includes Mrs. Markiff, played by Shelley Thompson.
Hey, Shelley Thompson.
Okay, is this really how this would be done?
I don't know. I don't
either,
know much about anything related to either the medical field nor the legal field.
Right. Isn't this just a deposition where you take your statements?
Also, this isn't our country either. This is taking place in Canada.
Yeah. Different roles.
They
different
have
laws.
totally different legal system.
Right.
Actually, no, I'm wrong. Wait, this is in Boston. Never mind.
Oh,
this is in Boston.
Right. No, yeah, okay. So yeah, I think if you're just taking a deposition and giving your statement, you're not being confronted by the person who's suing you at this point. But then again, I don't really know much about this.
I don't know.
It just doesn't feel right to me. But yeah, this deposition does not go well. Her lawyer doesn't seem to have prepared her at all for actually.
Well, remember, that's what Cal was saying, is
Right.
you need to prepare with your lawyer face to face.
Right.
And they just like chatted on the phone a couple times and said, see you later.
Right.
And I feel like Maggie's relying on those note cards.
Mhm.
Remember, she had those note cards. She's reciting that same speech that Cal had
Right.
told her not to do.
Right.
He had told her, say as little as possible. And I feel like she's kind of not doing that.
Right.
She is reciting the whole spiel. Here's what happened.
Mhm.
And she's not waiting for the questions. But Mrs. Markov's lawyer is also doing exactly what Cal said they were going to do.
Right.
She is goading Maggie in trying to confuse her.
And she does a good job, because then she ends up confessing that she doesn't know whether she did the checking of her eyes.
Okay,
or whatever.
so there's talk about Jamal Patterson and Kevin Markov. The attorney wants to know if Maggie checked Kevin's pupillary dilation response. She says she did. The lawyer then asks, was it before or after examining his leg? Which I don't know what difference it makes. I don't think it does, as long as you did it. Who cares
Right.
what order you checked the injuries in?
Right.
And Maggie says she thinks it was before. But there is a statement from Nurse Miriam. Remember that woman?
Yep.
That she's provided a written statement stating that Maggie did not check for pupillary response before examining Kevin Markov's leg.
I mean, I can consult a video replay and find
So
out.
I did.
You did?
I
Okay.
did. But
All right.
so they succeeded in shaking Maggie up, and she admits that she's not sure.
Well,
Now,
what
what
is the-
she's not sure about is if she checked before or after
Right.
checking his leg,
Mhm.
which again, I'm not a medical professional, but I don't feel like that should be a difference.
Right.
So she's not sure when she checked it, but they kind of spin it into her not being sure if she checked it at all, which I feel like that's a really different statement.
Right.
And so yeah, I reviewed the tape. I did.
And?
I went back and reviewed the tape, and I can say with certainty Maggie shined a little light into Kevin Markov's eyes and was watching them.
Okay.
And I can only assume that that is the act of checking his pupillary response.
I mean, yes. I'm pretty sure that it's
Again,
accurate.
not a medical professional, so there might be
Right.
some part of that is not that, but that's what it looks like to me. And also, I have to note that, and this is all from episode 1, from the original scene that we saw,
Yes.
we got a very clear shot of Nurse Miriam watching Maggie do this.
Okay.
Like, they focused on her face watching her.
Okay.
So, she is lying.
Okay.
Maggie definitely checked the pupils
Right.
for whatever she was checking for. And she did it before checking his leg as well. Not that I think that matters.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, wow. What? I mean, we don't know anything about this character to know why she would do this. Some professional jealousy? Did, I don't know, Maggie give her the wrong coffee or something? Or she forget her birthday? Like, what would be the reason to do this?
Right. And again, maybe there's more to it that she was supposed to do, but as a layperson looking at it, yeah, she checked his eyes.
Right, okay. During the break, Maggie is confronted by Mrs. Markov. This is allowed?
Yeah,
They would allow this to
and
happen?
it clearly looks like this wasn't meant to be allowed. So they took a 10-minute break after Maggie's lawyer said that they're badgering her.
I can't help but think that Mrs. Markov confronting the doctor like this would be bad for her case.
Right.
I would think the lawyer would say, hey, don't do this.
Yeah, so Maggie had gone out during the break to get some
Right.
fresh air. She was taking Cal's advice, and she was thinking,
Trying to find her
she said, I
balance.
need to find my center space, right? She's trying to think of that happy place. She looks up at a tree,
Mm-hmm.
and I can only imagine she's thinking about that tree mural in her bedroom,
Aw.
which, of course, we
Yes.
get back to that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that helped her balance herself and find some confidence to walk back into that building. But after Mrs. Markov confronted her, she lost
Right.
anything.
Yeah, they end up getting broken apart.
The
Maggie
lawyers
ends up
rush in.
vomiting.
So Mrs. Markup's lawyer rushes first to pull her back. Like, you can't do that.
Right.
And then her lawyer comes out of, I think, the bathroom or something, and he comes up just a moment too late because it was already broken up.
Maggie's mother suggested that they get a different lawyer. I'm starting to think that she was right because this guy is not competent. He doesn't do a good job in this episode at all.
Not only did Maggie lose her peace, she literally throws up in the middle of the lobby of this legal building.
So Maggie ends up calling the store for Edna. Sully ends up getting the phone instead.
Yeah, he was on the phone, and I think it was the Rainbow Club situation he was dealing with. And he was very yelly with whoever he's talking with. That's not a great way to schmooze a customer. Right.
This is a chance at reconciliation, but Sully ends up blowing it. She ends up explaining what happened, and Sully reflexively says, well, you can't blame a parent for thinking that.
Right.
Now, this is not him taking her side.
Right, but that's how Maggie took it. She's like, you're going to take her side?
Right.
And he wasn't. He was saying...
This is her empathizing with the parent.
Right.
This is not... Sully said the wrong thing here, but it wasn't for the reasons that Maggie thinks. So Maggie ends up hanging up before Sully gets the chance to explain what he was actually trying to say.
But what Maggie said before that happened, it's not all over.
Right.
They're going to trial.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what should have, in most cases, happened at the deposition is they settle and this gets dropped.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to trial.
Right.
Which means this is no longer your average lawsuit in a medical thing.
Right.
She's literally has to go to trial with witnesses coming to the stand and the whole thing.
Well, while she's at it, maybe she should get a better lawyer.
Maybe she needs to get Cal to come represent her.
Hire Cal.
I mean, I don't know. Does he? Well, yeah, he's from New York, so he should be licensed in the States.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cal's a defense attorney. He needs to come take her case.
Yep.
There we go. We settled it. Maybe that's what happens in season 2.
All right, so... Sully, after Maggie hangs up, realizes that Maggie is not coming back, and he's really upset about this.
And then he storms out, refusing to tell Frank where he's going. And this is where Frank's like, uh-oh.
Right. He should have already been going, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Basically.
Because I think Frank thinks he's about to go drink without even realizing he already has been.
Yeah. Andrew wants to take Maggie somewhere. And
she was ferociously cleaning her apartment because this is apparently how she deals with stress. And he stops her and says, there's something I want to show you. We got to go for a drive.
Sully is driven to drink some more, and he goes to the mural of the tree.
He's got a gallon of paint, fresh bottle of booze.
And he starts to paint over it. Well, at least he doesn't throw alcohol on the wall, I guess. Drink the paint and then throw the alcohol on the wall.
And this scene, I was like, just no, Sully, just no. Leave the tree alone.
I was really hoping he would drop the thing and
And we get a flashback of it again, seeing that day when Maggie was little and they first were painting the tree. And of course, in the present, he drinks that whiskey while covering the tree in white paint, which doesn't even match the rest of the room.
Right. I mean, I don't think...
Horrible, like a heartbreaking moment for everybody.
Yes. Andrew takes Maggie to his new job. And gets
that wasn't his new job. This was a house.
That was a house?
This was a house.
That was a house?
Okay. He had indicated earlier in the episode when Phoebe was asking that he already thinks he found a place to live. So the impression I got is this is a house that he's trying to buy for him and Maggie to live in once they get married and live happily ever after.
Gotcha.
So he was taking her to this place here's where we're going to start our life together.
Okay, I thought that was like a hospital then, because that was a big house.
It was he's a surgeon.
He's a rich man. I gotcha. All right, so he gets down on one knee to propose, and I have in my notes, Andrew is a dope. Okay, so she doesn't seem happy about this at all.
It's been the worst day of her life so far.
2 things. If you want to take the best possible view of Andrew's actions here, you can assume that Andrew is doing this to make Maggie feel better. It's not a good way to go. But if you want to take the best possible view of Andrew's actions, you can say that. The worst possible interpretation is Andrew is just so clueless about where Maggie's headspace is at. This is a terrible, no good day for her. This is the worst day of her life.
Right.
he's still playing this epic romance in his head.
Yeah. Like, it's okay, I'll save you.
Completely ignoring everything else that's going on in their life and where Maggie actually is.
Yeah, so he does this. She doesn't know what to say.
Right.
And I don't think there's any chance in the world that she would actually say yes to this man.
Right.
Because I know she doesn't give a crap about their relationship.
No.
But they're interrupted, right? We don't get a chance for her to respond because her phone rings.
Right. And,
he begs her, don't answer that. Do not take that call. Like, we're in the middle of something. But she answers it anyways. And it's a good thing she did because it sounded really important. But I wonder if she was just really happy that call interrupted this. And,
I'm sure
and
she
made it
was.
so she didn't have to speak in this moment.
We don't get to hear the conversation, but apparently something bad happened back at Sullivan's Crossing, and she needs to go back.
Yeah, so she had this really sad look on her face. She said, thanks for letting me know. And she's got a tear in her voice, and she tells Andrew, I have to go back to Sullivan's Crossing. Something's happened.
Did you happen to see the preview?
I did.
It looks very much like they're trying to imply that Sully is in fact dead.
Okay, they definitely want us to think that. And I was questioning. I was questioning, does CW make these trailers? Or are these the same cuts that we used in Canada? Again, it's me questioning, like, is there any difference? But 100%, they want us to think that... So there's a funeral.
Yeah.
They're at a funeral.
Someone is actually dead.
Week. Someone has died.
I don't think it's Cal.
We see Cal.
Yes.
We see Frank.
Yes, and he's basically like, I'm sorry you couldn't make up with Sully or something along those lines.
We see Rob.
Yep.
Okay, now it's possible they're misleading us and one of those characters died. And the scene with them is a flashback. It's possible.
Right.
But they intentionally didn't show Sully.
Right.
They want you to think he's gone.
Yeah.
I'm 100% positive that's not the case.
Right, of course not. It would be like a very anticlimactic
I'm very certain that it's going to be Roy.
I mean, that makes the most sense.
Yeah. It's the more minor of the male characters. Like they said he.
Right.
We know it's a he that died. It's the more minor of the male characters.
And it is also someone that she would
older,
care about.
Older, someone who...
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a big tragedy that he died, right? I mean, it's going to be sad, but it's not like, oh, Rob was in an accident and died.
Right.
Or Jackson or Rafe, like one of the younger characters.
I don't think you can do that. They're too minor at this point. We haven't seen enough of them to care to that extent. And more importantly, Maggie hasn't really seen enough of them. We haven't seen enough interaction with Maggie to make that matter.
For her to be like, I gotta go back.
It has to be someone that is important to Maggie. And Roy makes sense, I think.
I'm very certain that's where we're going. And I felt like that trailer was just kind of ridiculous for them to be so misleading. It felt like they're going for a This Is Us style mislead.
Right.
And I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I think there's just too much story going on with Sully to like just kill him like that.
Yeah, 100% no.
Right.
But I mean, if they did do that, wow.
That would be brave.
That'd be a twist for sure. But I don't think so. No.
I
don't think so. And I think they're kind of silly for trying to imply that. If anything, they shouldn't have even told us it's a funeral.
Right. Yeah. So do we have anything else to say about this episode?
No, I think we got it.
All right.
Yeah, looking forward to see what happens. It looks like Andrew's going to accompany her to this funeral.
Yes.
So everybody's going to be in the same room.
That's going to be awkward.
I hope that, she stays in Sullivan's Crossing after this and sends Andrew home alone.
Yes, that would be very nice. And have that whole text message thing blow up in his face.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's the least crappy of the three of the people that are in Maggie's life in Boston, but he's still crappy.
I didn't see that any of the other two came. At least Andrew's coming to support her in this situation, but, yeah, no. Any little bit of thought I might have had towards him left the second he erased that text message.
Yeah, that was not okay. All right. Stacie can be reached at...
I can be reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee, which is a new way to support content creators such as ourselves. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. Yes, I did that backwards compared to what I usually do, but whatever. You can also like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to our channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions, signing off.